Oh, Jinks. I have a history with this game. I've alluded to it in the past, but I haven't fully divulged it on this channel yet. As I mentioned numerous times, I had a 7800 growing up, but our library of actual 7800 games was small. There was some I forgot about and recently remembered after finding our old manuals and talking with my family. We had Miss Pac-Man on the 7800, Choplifter, Pole Position 2 of course, Rampage, and a few others. Most of our Atari games were hand-me-down 2600 stuff, and I was fine with that. But later in life, when I decided to collect for several video game consoles, the 7800 was one I remembered looking into. And there was a few games that stood out to me in the library. One of those games was Jinks, and I was really intrigued by it. I always loved Breakout-style games, and I enjoy things like Super Breakout, Arkanoid, and the recent Quant 2. And as far as I could tell, Jinks looked to be sort of a level-based exploration game using a ball and paddle. It seemed pretty cool. But I was ultimately disappointed with it all those years ago, and haven't went back to it very often. So let's find out if I was right to be disappointed in this hybrid-style game, or if I was missing something that changes everything for myself, and maybe even everybody watching.
Welcome.
Jinks was released in 1989 for the Atari 7800 and was originally programmed by Diamond Arts for various computers. The Atari port was published by Atari Corp and was credited to Softgold according to the game's title screen. Moby Games credits the programming to US Gold, but I'm not sure what proof they have of this. Regardless, Jinks begins fairly impressively with a clear voice sample taunting you by saying, "You can't catch me," and a yow before some melodic music starts playing. And the title screen looks really good on the 2600 Plus, which Jinks is absolutely compatible with. You can press any direction on the main menu to see high scores, but there is no real options available to us. The only thing you can really do on the menu is just start the game. And once you do, you're greeted with a whole lot of pink. There's a ball bouncing on the far left of the screen, and eventually a blue triangle appears on the center of the screen. You control the triangle and have free movement around the level. You can move anywhere you want to that isn't occupied by an obstacle, and you can turn the triangle upside down with the press of either button. You'll need to hit the ball with the curved side of the triangle in order to get it moving in any other direction other than up. As you bounce the ball, you'll hit various bricks and silver icons for points. There are obstacles that you must avoid that usually comes in the form of drills and bluish objects that follow simple patterns. The ball can pass through these things unharmed, but you must make sure to avoid the mouth icon with the ball, otherwise it'll be gobbled up. You appear to have 2 lives, and you lose 1 if you destroy the triangle, or allow the ball to be eaten. The triangle can take 2 hits before it's destroyed, with the first hit reducing its size, which obviously makes it harder to hit the ball. If you find a triangle icon and hit it with the ball, you can return it to normal size. It all sounds well enough, and if you didn't know better, you might think that Jinks could be fun. And I have to admit that I do occasionally enjoy my time with it. But more often than not, Jinks is a struggle against odd trajectory and bounces, and has really annoying sound effects. Not to mention the truly ugly-looking levels. The colors and background choices for all 4 of the included levels are just really hard on the eyes, especially on original hardware and a CRT television. But I have to admit that it looks a bit better on the 2600 Plus. Still, I'm not sure why the developers chose the colors and backgrounds that they did, because to me, well, they just look bad. The sound can be equally as bad as I mentioned before. The title screen music and tunes that play between levels are actually fairly good. I honestly like them for the most part. But during gameplay, the music is gone, replaced by the constant bouncing sound of the ball, along with some different sounds for pinging off the environment, obstacles, and collectibles. The ball can also get stuck in the environment or bounce off the triangle a bunch of times in rapid succession, making a truly god-awful sound that I absolutely couldn't stand. It was enough for me to just mute the TV for the rest of the time I was playing Jinks. And I usually try not to do that for reviews, but man, I really don't like this sound. But even with the god-awful sound, the biggest offense that Jinks pulls is the gameplay itself. As I had to mention, the ball takes weird bounces and seems to gain or lose momentum out of nowhere. It doesn't behave the way a good breakout game should, in my opinion, and I end up getting frustrated by the ball's reaction. There are obstacles you have to avoid, and some of them are actually really cool. Level 3 has some gravity orbs and spinners that make the ball move and react in cool ways, but most of the time you're just dealing with odd angled shapes that are hard to keep the ball away from, and it's really not fun to traverse the rest of the levels. Not to mention that they don't really have anything to show you outside of what you see on the first few screens. You can get a sense of what each of the 4 levels are all about just within the first few seconds of moving the ball, and you just play the same levels over and over again. Now they do get more difficult each time you re-enter them, which is nice, but I really wish there was at least another, say 4 levels to play through. It really would have added to the sense of progression and exploration. But I do have to admit that there are times when the ball bounces well, and Jinks flows like a really good game. Moving through a level, breaking tons of bricks, and getting to the exit, and then entering your desired level with no problems is nice, and dare I say fun. It's just that, well, this wasn't my experience probably 90% of the time that I played it. And I also tested things out, like getting through levels as quickly as I could, attempting to break every brick I could before exiting, and more just to see if I could get anything else to happen. But there's really nothing more to the game than what I've already said. Again, I was originally intrigued by Jinks because of the breakout style gameplay, combined with adventure elements and level progression. But overall, well, it's just not really pulled off very well. And with that, I don't think there's a whole lot more to say about Jinks, so I think we can take it into the Atari Network pros and cons section and see if it can squeak out a recommendation. And we'll once again start with the positives. Jinks is a cool idea, combining paddle and ball gameplay with some exploration aspects, and occasionally it can play well. The music and voice during the opening screen is really done well, and the title screen looks great on the 2600 Plus. Honestly, the levels look pretty crisp on that console too. I also like the gravity obstacles in level 3, but that's, well, I guess that's all the pros I really have for Jinks, so it's already time to head into the negatives. And buckle up, we might be here for a while. First off, the ball can take some odd bounces, and it gets stuck in odd places sometimes. Also, the ball can bounce rapidly at times, causing the sound effect to play, well, in rapid succession, and it makes an already bad sound effect unbearable. The whole game just isn't fun to play, and I didn't really enjoy my time with it. More often than not, I was just frustrated trying to get the ball to go where I wanted it to. The levels are also pretty ugly, and there are some god-awful color choices. There's tons of pinks, oranges, and greens that can be especially harsh on the eyes when using original hardware. And even though there's 4 levels, well, there's just no sense of progression. I really wish there was more to Jinks other than getting a high score and replaying the same levels over and over again. And we'll just leave it there, I guess. So with all that said, I think it's fair to give Jinks on the Atari 7800 2 Pro-Line controllers out of 5. It's pretty bad, and I really can't recommend it to anybody who hasn't played it yet. If you do decide to give Jinks a go, be prepared to be underwhelmed by everything it has to offer. I think the idea is sound and one that could have been done very well, but the execution is poor, and the whole thing feels botched, which is a shame in my opinion. The 7800 desperately needed good games, especially when Jinks was released back in 1989. But now that I've said my piece, I want to hear what you think about the game. Do you agree with my score? Or do you know something I don't know that proves the game to be better than just a 2 out of 5? Have you played any other version of Jinks? If so, well, how do they compare to this one? I want to know about all this and more in the comments down below. And please, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We put out 2 videos a week, so hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I upload. I'd also like to take this time to thank the following classy Atarians for supporting me on Patreon and YouTube memberships. You can too by hitting the join button below, or heading over to patreon.com/7800progamer. Either way, you get access to the same extra content, and you get a shout out at the end of every video. So thank you to HugeAss79, Jeremiah Thomas, Mr. Shua TV, Fence the Spook, Socrates63, Ball Gobbler, Jolt7800, OG Hugo, Head Trauma Bob, and my own Celestial. You guys rock. And please check out Manverse 7800 every other Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. We try to conquer a different 7800 game during each live stream, and the next one will be on the date shown on the screen right now. Okay, with all that, it's time to wrap up yet another review for the channel. I'm the 7800 Pro Gamer, a triangle attempting to bounce a ball into a glowing circle in order to gain access to the Atari network, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. And please remember to stay classy, Atarians.